Thank you for joining us today. Today we're presenting the long-term vision or future concept for how State Route 255 corridor is planned to function or operate at the end of our 20-year planning horizon. We will be presenting the corridor management plan for State Route 255. In this presentation, we'll outline the steps needed to achieve the route concept and help advance improvements in support of the 20-year horizon of the plan. Before we get started, we would like to ensure that everyone has access to the information that we will be presenting here today. We have resources available to assist any members of the public needing translation services. Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibits discrimination based upon race, color, and national origin. Specifically, Title 42 of the United States Code, Section 2000, states that no person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. Before we get started, I'd like to announce that Caltrans has recently approved funding for the design phase of a pedestrian hybrid beacon at the intersection of Lupin and State Route 255 in Manila. A pedestrian hybrid beacon is similar to a traffic signal in that traffic is required to stop for pedestrians when the lights are activated. Some of you may be familiar with the pedestrian hybrid beacon located on Broadway in Eureka in front of the Broadway Cinema. Initiating a project to install a pedestrian hybrid beacon in Manila is the first step towards improving highway crossings for bicycles and pedestrians, a longtime goal of the community of Manila. Additional information about the project will be announced in the near future by our proactive traffic safety branch. Here today to facilitate this presentation is Jordan Adair and myself, Jesse Robertson, with the System Planning Branch in Caltrans District 1. Our aim is to give you a brief presentation about what function corridor management plans serve, which will be followed by a brief introduction to the plan. The corridor management plan uses a digital mapping platform to minimize the amount of text by displaying an increasingly large body of data in a more simplified format. Corridor management plans play a small but important function in the management and improvement of the overall transportation system. Long-range plans are prepared for every state route. These plans are updated on a regular basis so that they remain current. Since 2017, when the last long-range plan was established for State Route 255, there have been numerous policies implemented that significantly changed the direction of Caltrans policies and investment strategies. These policies have been captured in the recently approved California Transportation Plan 2050 and the Climate Action Plan for Transportation Infrastructure. These policies focus on a variety of goals, including addressing climate change, enhancing accessibility, improving equity, reduction of vehicle miles traveled, and so on. Long-range planning or corridor management plans identify opportunities to align system planning for state highways with departmental policy. We identify the needs in combination with other agencies and the public. California Government Code Section 65086 states that the Department of Transportation, in consultation with transportation planning agencies, county transportation commissions, counties, and cities, shall carry out long-term state highway system planning to identify future highway improvements. This graphic highlights the system planning's role linking statewide policies to projects and improvement strategies. State planning begins in Sacramento, largely prompted by new legislation, executive orders, and departmental policy. It provides the strategic direction for the department and is conducted in coordination with all 12 Caltrans districts. The office or system planning takes place at the district level, identifying and analyzing needs. Each route is assessed, performance needs are identified, and goals for improvements are established. Corridor management plans identify those performance goals that can be feasibly achieved within a 20-year planning horizon. The identified needs can often be addressed in more than one way, which leads to project alternatives. Alternatives are evaluated early in the project development process. Prioritization happens when funding is allocated or when grant programs make a call for projects. One of the primary functions of the Humboldt County Association of Governments is to prioritize regional priorities. Grant programs award funding to needs that are best aligned with the program goals and deliver the best value for the funds expended. Project planning establishes the purpose and need for individual projects, which takes place after the development of system planning products. Project planning drives the selection of project alternatives, the scope, schedule, and cost are the outcome of project planning. Programming involves the dedication of or allocation of funds to projects for further development, and planning monitors progress towards those goals with project development and delivery. This process is ongoing, making strides towards departmental goals when funds are made available. System planning products are developed in collaboration with local and regional partners and the public early in the planning process. On this slide, you can see the names of the agencies that Caltrans District 1 System Planning met with over the development of the plan. Coordination with the resource agencies will ensure that plans are more comprehensive in focus and address a diverse range of needs. Before projects can be prioritized for funding, any competing needs must be balanced to ensure logical development. This diagram is complicated and you don't need to worry about reading it. What it is intended to show is the central role that corridor management plans play in applying a wide range of policy and planning initiatives when forming the corridor management plan's long-range concept. The corridor management plan incorporates elements from Caltrans modal plans, regional transportation plans, community plans like the Arcata Gateway Area Plan, and the Manila Community Transportation Plan. Corridor management plans define how a corridor is performing and recommends projects and strategies to correct deficiencies that may be identified. The level of investment in a route is a reflection of the anticipated funding available within the 20-year planning horizon. The recommended strategies, opportunities, or project concepts may become candidates for funding programs. Keep in mind that the CMP is a high-level plan. It is not intended to take the place of local plans or planning efforts. It is not a specific plan. It is not a feasibility study. It is not a project report. Corridor management plans identify deficiencies or needs, not specific projects. It does not prioritize or project candidates. It does not initiate projects. It does serve as a reference for design engineers, project planners, and for grant writers. Caltrans, as the owner-operator of the state highway system, has a statutory mandate to ensure that all improvements to the state highway system are safe, operational, maintainable, environmentally compatible, and of good value, that they are efficient in providing multimodal movement of people and goods, that they are in the best interest of the general public, that they are developed and constructed in compliance with laws and regulations that govern the use of state and federal transportation funds, and that they are developed and constructed in partnership with vested stakeholders. We do this through policy considerations such as multimodal alternatives analysis, Caltrans partnerships, context-sensitive solutions, climate change, sustainability, and complete streets policies. The corridor management plan outlines a concept for how the route will operate in 20 years. A concept is established for the corridor as a whole, as well as for each of the individual planning segments. The 20-year concept for the route aims to balance regional mobility with community connectivity needs, as well as expanding multimodal travel options along the route. The draft corridor plan was released to the public on March 14, 2025. We are now more than halfway through the public review period and are here to aid you in the review of the plan. The public review period for the plan will close on Friday, May 23rd, and the final plan will be posted to the Caltrans District 1 Regional and System Planning website once we have considered public comments. For those of you at home, you may scan the QR code to access the corridor management plan online. You may also follow along with us as we navigate the corridor management plan on screen. Jordan Dare will give us a demonstration of the StoryMap platform, and I will highlight some of the plan's contents. Jordan?
Hi, I'm Jordan Adair. I'm a Geographic Information Systems Specialist with Caltrans. I helped develop the mapping platform of the Corridor Management Plan. I will be updating the maps and layers as new data is available, and I can answer technical questions about the StoryMap platform. Traditionally, corridor management plans have been printed documents or PDFs. We've transitioned to a web-based platform, Esri StoryMaps. A story map allows us to utilize the large amounts of spatial data provided by federal, state, and local agencies. Additionally, the corridor management plan is no longer a static document, and the maps can be updated as data sources change or are updated. Finally, the story map allows you all to see the spatial data in greater detail and explore some of the data sets on your own. We have a how to use the ECMP section at the top of the map. This is a general guideline if you want to look at that on your own. But here's how you navigate the story map. So at the top, we have all of these menu tabs, and you can use these tabs to jump to different sections throughout the map. As you scroll through the map, the sections will change, and you can use these menu tabs to jump back or revisit previous sections. As you scroll, maps will change, and the information in each map supports and is related to the content of each section. There are also links in the map. There's a link at the top of the map, if you go back to the How to Use ECMP section, that takes you to a map that contains all of the data within the plan. So at the end of How to Use ECMP, there's this link here. Here's the map that contains all the layers within the corridor management plan. On the left-hand side of the screen, there's a Legend tab and a Layers tab. The Legend displays all of the layers currently in view on the map. The Layers has all of the individual layers within the corridor management plan. If you open the Layers section, you can toggle visibility of different layers. So we can turn off the Great Redwood Trail, turn on crosswalks, there's shoulder widths, and additional information that you might find helpful. So for example, if we're interested in the Great Redwood Trail, can zoom in to Manila, see a couple of lines here, going back to our legend on the left. We have Corridor Management Plan Segment 2, that's the orange line, and we have proposed Redwood Trail through Manila. So if that were to change to planned or existing, we could update the data in this map. If we look at the other side of the bay, we have a planned Redwood Trail segment, the South Humboldt Bay section. When this changes later this month, we will update this line so it's no longer planned and is displayed as existing. You don't need an ArcGIS online account to access this map or any of the data sets. And if you have any issues accessing the document or the supporting maps, please let us know and we'll resolve the issues as soon as we can. All right, I'll give that back to Jesse.
Thank you, Jordan. So now we're going to take a little tour of the contents of the plan itself. The About Us section at the very top of the plan contains information about Caltrans, the system planning branch, and corridor management plans in general. Scrolling down, we'll get to the executive summary. The executive summary is admittedly brief. Much of the corridor management plan has been carried over from previous long-range Caltrans plans. In this case, the 2017 Transportation Concept Report for State Route 255 has provided much of the background that this plan is developed from. So in the executive summary itself, only the significant changes from the past plans have been identified. The map to the right shows highway post miles at every half mile. Post miles are reference points to help communicate the location of features along the route. The purpose of the Electronic Corridor Management Plan, or ECMP, Caltrans long-range planning incorporates new state policies, local and regional planning, as well as the existing highway conditions into a high-level concept or vision to guide Caltrans project development. The document is flexible to keep options open during project development. The concept summary comes next. The long-range operations and management concept for State Route 255 is to balance multimodal and safety goals with the operational needs of the city of Arcata, the communities of Manila, Samoa, and Fairhaven, and the Port of Humboldt. The route will also be considered for climate resiliency, maintenance, and rehabilitation needs. Next, we see participation in the planning effort. Caltrans conducted a significant amount of stakeholder and public outreach in the development of this plan. A list of agencies and stakeholders is provided, indicating that those are participants and collaborators in the plan. The route segmentation and description. This section describes the four planning segments. There's a long narrative section, and for some of the narrative that may not be kind of household terms, there is an appendix. In Appendix A, I believe, has acronyms, and Appendix B may be definitions. Please consult the appendices when coming across terms that may not be familiar. The route description section describes the major features of the route. This is mostly a narrative. Many of you who have driven the route should be somewhat familiar with this section. The route purpose and history. The state has an interest in the route as a land connection to the Port of Humboldt, one of 7 deepwater ports in the state of California. Access to the port was the primary impetus for the development of the route in the 1960s and 70s. The rationale behind the current long-range concept for the route recognizes changes in travel patterns within the corridor. Over time, the industrial base on the peninsula has given rise to commuter, residential, and recreational trips and travel. Increasing non-motorized travel from newer land uses suggests the need to expand multimodal travel options to accommodate those uses. Where the state is not well suited for all travel modes, a mode being something like a walking trip, a bicycle trip, transit trip, a vehicle trip, including heavy trucks, where the state highway is not well suited for all modes, other facilities may be considered, such as a bikeway, a county road, or a highway. The completed and program projects. Here we have a table that identifies a list of improvements that have been completed since 2005 Manila Transportation Plan was put together. We also have a list of improvements that are in progress currently. We have in the summer, we have a signal system upgrade in the city of Arcata between K Street and F Street. And as previously mentioned, a pedestrian hybrid beacon has been approved for funding in the design phase for Lupin and State Route at Lupin and State Route 255. A pedestrian hybrid beacon, as I've mentioned, is similar to a traffic signal, requiring motorists to stop on State Route 255 when the pedestrian activated lights are illuminated. The construction year for this project has not yet been established. The approval for funding for the design phase had been announced after the draft corridor management plan was published. Additional information about the project development will be forthcoming in the near future. Corridor performance. Here you can see a lot of acronyms. These acronyms are described, as I mentioned, in the appendices. You can review this information, but I think what you'll find is that State Route 255 functions relatively well from a traffic standpoint. The volumes have changed little over the last 10 years of published traffic data. These volumes are estimated to increase by approximately 13% by the year 2044. And the majority of the growth would come from higher density development in Arcata and Samoa, as well as with proposed growth at the Port of Humboldt. State Route 255 currently operates at less than 1/10 of the current roadway or the theoretical roadway capacity. Collision rates along the corridor are low for serious and fatal accidents involving automobiles, bicycles, and pedestrians, and truck volumes are highest in Arcata. The small bridges have the lowest percentage of truck trips among the 4 planning segments. The route designations, this is one of the more technical elements of the plan. The route designations section generally guides design considerations, corridor performance. Route designations and system characteristics have traditionally been at the core of the considerations for informing the Caltrans long-range route concepts. This plan tries to add additional narrative, additional considerations that may be near and dear to the public's heart, and so there are new emphasis areas that we've considered with the development of this plan, including active transportation, bicycle and pedestrian travel, as well as truck trips and climate change. System characteristics. This section describes existing features of the facility for each of the highway segments and notes the planned future conditions. The features include the number of lane miles, the range and shoulder width, the presence and width of any medians, etc. This is largely of interest to project planners, design engineers, grant writers. And the section on land use and community characteristics establishes the context within which the highway operates. It provides information on employment data, commute and work travel times, demographics, median household income, population, land use designation, etc. Much of the data provided in this section comes from the U.S. Census Bureau. This information is often requested as part of state and federal grant applications and may be a resource for grant writers. The maps are programmed to be updated as new data is posted from the linked websites. That'll ensure that the content remains up to date. Complete streets. One of the newer emphasis areas for corridor management planning includes an assessment of active transportation facilities, active meaning non-motorized, human-powered walking and bicycling trips. Highway segments 2 through 4 from New Navy Base Road to the city of Arcata can easily be expected to see off-highway trail development along the Great Redwood Trail spur right-of-way if funding can be secured. Transit is an often overlooked element of complete streets. Humboldt Transit Authority is proposing to establish micro-transit service for Peninsula residents as an alternative to fixed-route bus service. Microtransit is a demand-responsive service and may provide an alternative to bicycling and pedestrian within the corridor. This may be important for travel over the smaller bridges, which would be costly to retrofit to improve non-motorized facilities. Freight facilities, State Route 255 will retain its designation as a California legal truck route. Any modifications to the route will need to be designed to accommodate a California legal sized truck. Next, we move to climate change. State Route 255 has the potential to remain resilient to rising sea levels in Humboldt Bay. Based on current projections, sea level rise is not expected to overtop State Route 255 within the time frame of this plan. There is a link to an outside website that that does display sea level rise elevations and over the planning area. The link will show sea level rise, where adjacent lands to State Route 255 may be inundated under different planning scenarios. Additional studies would be needed to further address vulnerabilities and to ensure that the route remains resilient to climate stressors. The environmental considerations section talks about existing guidance that directs Caltrans on how to incorporate climate change impacts in the design of new highway facilities. And other observations are noted on cultural resources, hazardous materials, endangered species, and the Clean Air Act. The corridor management plan takes under consideration key corridor issues. One of the key areas that may affect the operation of the route is the potential for development within the corridor. And it includes discussion on the potential growth in Samoa, Arcata, and the Port of Humboldt. The corridor management plan also summarizes the findings of the 2017 Caltrans engineered feasibility study, which evaluated potential improvements to the Samoa bridges and bicycle and pedestrian facilities along the route. The findings from that study note the challenges in improving the bridge, the Samoa bridges for bike and pedestrian use. Until funding can be secured, additional bike and ped amenities on the Samoa bridges are expected to remain part of the ultimate concept, which means it may take longer than 20 years to fund and build the desired improvements. Multimodal transportation plans in Arcata and Manila call for improved highway crossings and traffic calming, including roundabouts that will need to compete for project funding. Other required elements for corridor management plans are discussed in this section as well. The corridor concept itself calls for making safety improvements where necessary and improving non-motorized facilities in segments 2 through 4 along the Great Redwood Trail right-of-way. Enhanced crossings are identified in the Arcata and Manila communities to better balance community goals against regional mobility needs. A description of planned and program projects and strategies lists the locations where improvements have been planned or proposed. Following this, we have Appendix A, which defines some of the abbreviations used throughout the document. Appendix B provides definitions for terms that the public may be unfamiliar with. Appendix C are many of the references that were used and consulted in the development of this plan. Appendix D, the state guidance that shapes some of the policies that were considered in the development of the plan. And Appendix E includes public and stakeholder input. This largely stems from a public outreach meeting conducted in June of 2024. At the very end of the plan is a portal for collecting public input for public comments. By clicking yes or no to the question, have you read the State Route 255 Electronic Corridor Management Plan, and entering your name, a box will emerge where you can enter as many comments as you like. You can submit those comments directly to Caltrans. They will be compiled in a spreadsheet where your comments are going to be recorded verbatim and provide some security against being lost in an email inbox. And that's about the extent of the 255 Corridor Management Plan. We thank you for your attention today and thank you for your interest in transportation matters.